Welcome back to WineWire, everyone. This is the place you're going to find all those delicious wines that you can enjoy at restaurants that you'll never find in stores. I'm Nelson, and with me today is John Paul Potters, sommelier and head honcho at George Restaurant in Toronto, one of Canada's consistently ranked finest restaurants. Want to tell us what's happening at George these days?
George has got lots of stuff going on. We're busy. One thing we pride ourselves at George is seeking out really amazing and interesting wines, things that a lot of restaurants just can't carry. We source a lot of things exclusively for the restaurant, and I spend a lot of my time sort of searching far and wide for those special wines that we can import for our clients and showcase. We're really lucky at George. We have a great chef, Lorenzo Lassetto, and we're one of the few restaurants that still does a tasting menu offering and 5, 7, or 10 courses. So with that wine pairing option comes the ability to sort of put lots of interesting wines in front of people, wines that maybe they wouldn't have ordered from the list, things that are maybe a little too weird for some people, but that we can put in front of them and tell the story, and people get lots of mileage out of that, and we get to find lots of cool wines.
It's always nice when someone opens your eyes with a new wine, isn't it?
Agreed.
That's what it's all about.
Let's do that
At
now.
the end of the day, yeah, totally. So we are going to taste wine today from the Veneto region of Italy, and we're going to taste Appasso affected wines. So basically Valpolicella and Amarone, and you know, there is a surging popular debate right now in wine circles about natural wines, wines that are made naturally, essentially the epitome of letting the vineyard speak when you're experiencing the wine. And you know, this really brings into controversy because you know, I will say that Ripasso and Amarone is really describes a process, and a process of dehydrating grapes or drying grapes before they make the wine. So really there's a big hand from the winemaker, signature fingerprint of that particular wine from the winemaker. So I pose the question to you, John Paul, is appassimento wines like Amarones and Ripassos, are they vineyards that you're tasting? Are you buying a product of the vineyard, or are you really buying a winemaker's abilities?
I think both. I mean, one major factor with these wines is that you're concentrating flavor. And you're going to concentrate good flavors or bad flavors, and good flavors and bad flavors are going to be established in the vineyard as well as by the winemaker. Interestingly, with these wines, you know, Amarone is one of the wines that I often have to look the hardest for to find good examples, and it's one of the wines that I find most consistently to be underripe, which is an interesting thing, because a lot of the winemakers, or some of the winemakers, think that because they're going to dry the grapes that it's going to sort of hide any problems that they may have in the vineyard, and they tend to crop a little longer, they hold more crop, but when they ultimately dry the grapes and make the wine, what they've really done is concentrated those sort of underripe flavors. There's definitely excuse me, a terroir argument to be made for these wines. If you look at the region, you know, along the kind of right hand side of the Veneto and Valpolicella area, you're going to see that there's a big ridge line there, and consistently the best wines are coming out of that slope area around Negrar, and so you know there's definitely better vineyards and worse vineyards for sure. And with Amarone, a lot of it comes down to cost. You know, I think to make good Amarone wines, you're going to need to dry 40 to 50%. So not a lot of people are willing to lose that kind of crop. So I think what we're seeing now in these wines, and you know, hopefully these will be good examples of that, is that we're seeing a lot more care being taken in the vineyard. Okay. The winemakers are trying to get the grapes a lot riper in the vineyard, so they don't have to dry them as much for the winemaking. So we're seeing a little lower alcohol starting to come out in the wines, but still getting that kind of Amarone flavor. All
right, let's get to it. Let's try the first wine, and it's on your left there.
Okay, so we have Cadalmonte Ripasso della Valpolicella. So this is 2007.
And what's the price of this wine?
This is $21.95.
Super.
So Superiore designation, a little bit of extra alcohol.
You know what? It smells delicious. It smells gorgeous. You have this beautiful, leafy, earthy, leathery type high-toned aromatics, and then really a nice core of warm, dried fruit there. Not raisinated, just really concentrated, you know, warm sun fruit.
Yeah, I get that 100%. I really like on the palate, you know, This wine is on the drier side for the category for sure. I mean, it's weighing in at a very reasonable 13.5% alcohol, but you're getting this sort of nice, firm, dry, almost dusty kind of character to the wine. Very classic Italian wine, and a very good example, showing all of the kind of telltale aromatics and palate structure of Ripasso wine and Amarone, but in a nice kind of compact.
I love its elegant style. You mentioned the powdery tannins and really the elegant mouthfeel without being overdone. It's so rich, but yet it's so restrained. It's got so much in it, yet it's so elegant. It's a beautiful balance. It's a beautiful food wine, and I think that's what's really important.
We carry this wine at the restaurant. We do a lot of work with it, so really well. Great food wine. The dryness, the tannin that's there really, is going to allow it to sit beside lots of dishes. Not so heavy, and where we often run into problems with food wine pairing is with the alcohol content in wines.
Sure.
What happens is the alcohol content just begins to sit really up on top of the pairing, on top of the dish. So at that 13.5% alcohol, you can put this with lots of stuff. This is a wine that often we do with foie gras. Actually, we do it with squab and foie gras.
Beautiful.
It's dry enough to kind of offset the foie gras character.
Cool. Awesome. Well, you know what? We're going to move on to our next wine. And it is the Tenuta San Leone Amarone del Valpolicella. It is from the 2008 vintage, and I like the fact that you paid attention to the alcohol level on the Ripasso, because the Amarone and WineWire, we're always paying attention to the alcohol level because it is integral in matching. It's 14.5%, and that's pretty darn low for an Amarone wine. They're usually up above 15 for sure, and often in around the 16 plus range.
Yeah, again, I think we're seeing that sort of combination of people getting grapes riper and not drying quite so much.
Cool. What's this wine saying to you aromatically?
Big nose, lots of cherries for sure. It's got the nice balance of liqueur cherry, what I call sort of cherry liquorizio, if you like to think of it that way. It's got a little bit of licorice character. It's got cherries, dried fruit. Overall, quite complex, and not that you can smell sweetness, but it does have that sort of aspect of dried sweet fruit to it. It's really a great, well balanced. Lots going on. A little chocolate there too.
Yeah, I think it definitely shows the appassimento. I think this is more, when we talked about where does this wine fit in terms of vineyard versus winemaker. I think this goes a little more on the winemaker side because you do get a lot of that. Of those appassimento characteristics, but what I saw in the Ripasso that was different was a much more earthy style, and I think that's more the vineyard speaking. This wine is $45.95, so it's probably, if we want to categorize in terms of price, probably in your entry to mid range. It's not exactly up there with some of those iconic names that you hear from this region, but on the palate, again, a lot of concentrated fruit, really bright. I like the elegance with it. It's a good food wine as well. Obviously, much more heavier textured food than you'd have maybe with your Valpolicella. But I like the value play here, the price and the product, how it speaks.
I really like the texture of this wine a lot. You can spend a lot more money and not get as good a wine, to be certain. I think that this is showing a style of Amarone that I personally really like, and I generally seek to buy at the restaurant, which is it's a great dry red table wine, and it's not going to take years and years and years for it to be ready to drink. You can sort of approach this now. A lot of the more expensive Amarones in the kind of $55, $65, $70 range, they really need to sit for a period of time. I think that this is looking really good out of the gates and delicious tonight.
I'm going to have to agree with you there. Folks, thanks for joining us on WineWire. You can check us out on Facebook and Twitter at WineWireCA if you're following us on Twitter. If you're not, you should be. And JP, any last parting words about George Restaurant or what things coming up?
Well, it's kind of topical. We're doing appassimento wines today, so we do have a big Masters of Amarone event going on February the 1st. So we brought together some of the really top tier producers out of this area: Allegrini, Quintarelli, Del Forno, Massi, lots of back vintages. So
awesome.
That's what we like to do. We like to collect treasures and then have dinners. So that's happening February 1. So give a call to the restaurant and let us know if you'd like to come. There's a couple tickets left. Actually, it's been so popular, I'm going to have to expand the seating. Everyone's knocking on the doors.
Right on. How do we find you on the web?
You can go to www.georgeonqueen.com or give us a call at the restaurant at
Beautiful. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Awesome, thanks.
See you soon.
Thanks, Nelson.
I'll see you soon too. Cheers.